Hello, everyone. I'm Captain Logan, and joining me as always for our fun kind of potpourri Friday shows, it's Austin, the Day Ghost. And tonight, despite Austin's shirt, we are not doing a blind
Yeah.
commentary on Halloween Ends.
Oh, thank God. Thank God.
We are talking about maybe trying to review that next week. I've not seen it yet. I don't think you have.
Oh, hold on. No, I'm seeing it on Saturday.
Oh, okay, cool. So, or maybe not cool. We'll see what that whole thing is like. But anyway, welcome, folks.
Um,
Tonight, we're excited because we're watching a movie. We're doing a commentary on a horror movie, and it's a film that I had never seen before yesterday, and always meant to, and always kind of curious about. And now I've seen it, and I can't wait to watch it with you guys. I enjoyed this so much. This is The Fly with Jeff Goldblum from 1986, a movie that is based on a short story and is also a remake of a film from the mid 50s, which I have not seen. This is a thing that I wish, Austin, people had sold to me harder than they did. Have you ever had that experience? Like, usually we complain about people like overselling things to you or something being so hyped up that you feel like you've seen it already, you never want to bother with it, and it's too long before you finally look at it. This
yeah.
was undersold to me.
Yeah, it's probably just people being like, "Oh yeah, The Fly's pretty good," and it'd be like once in a blue moon you'd hear that, and it's like, "Oh yeah, like Jeff Goldblum's in that. I'll watch it one day."
This was not at all what I expected, to be honest with you. I mean, tonally, sort of. I knew it was a body horror thing, and I knew that Jeff Goldblum was, his regular kind of eccentric self, and I knew the basic premise of it. I didn't realize the production values of this movie. I didn't know that the characters were as drawn and interesting as they are. I didn't know it had a killer soundtrack. This movie's got a great score. I don't want to just sit here and review it before we do the commentary. But really, this was undersold. People should have put a gun to my head and made me watch this movie. I thought this was a glorified B movie. I had no idea this was it looks like a studio film.
Yeah, which is interesting because this is always one of those movies I hear touted up as in the top 10 best remakes of all time. So it's one that I heard about a lot before I finally saw it.
I forgot it was a remake. I sent you a message after I saw it, and I was like, oh, this is like a 50s sci-fi movie with a soul. And maybe the original, I would also say, has a soul. I've not seen it. I don't know what the character work is like in that movie, or if it's basically just kind of a monster thing. I assume that the scientist in that, does, if it's a scientist at all, doesn't gradually turn into a fly like in this, because that was kind of apparently the basic pitch to Fox. Was like, what if we remade The Fly, but this time it took most of the movie?
Well, and the original one has the more famous image where it's the scientist guy with the giant fly head.
Yeah.
That's of course visually.
I guess I didn't
what,
realize that's where that came from.
Stockman
I
is.
didn't know there was a 50s fly movie. I assumed that was some other sci-fi or some other kind of 50s horror movie where somebody turns into a fly, but it was called something else.
Yeah, no, this kind of fits into my holy trinity of 80s remakes of 50s movies, which is The Fly, The Thing, and The Blob. But they're all the movies, of course.
Right. I couldn't think of the third one. I was talking to my wife about this today because I was like, I don't usually show Sarah horror, and she usually doesn't care about these kinds of movies. But for some reason, she loves The Thing. I had to do I had to do a project in college on The Thing, and we were dating at the time, and she happened to be over, and I was like, "Do you want to watch this movie with me? I don't think you're gonna like it." And she was like, "Sure, let's try it." And I actually didn't love that movie, and I haven't seen it since then. But I was actually not the biggest fan of The Thing. My wife adored it for some reason, and so after watching The Fly, I was like, I think maybe you should see The Thing, because it's in that trifecta, apparently. The Fly, pardon me. It's in that. She's seen The Thing. She loves that. That was what I was talking about. But this is apparently in that trifecta of remakes, of horror remakes, where the remake is better than the original and kind of a classic now, if not masterpiece. And so I knew it was this in The Thing, but I'd forgotten about The Blob, and I've never seen that. I've never seen either of those.
Well, and The Blob's really good too. It's not as good. I think The Fly and The Thing are masterpieces. They're amazing, and The Blob's really great. But I wouldn't say it's that level. It's the Blob. The main thing is that it's a really fun movie. But that's Frank Darabont, so you should probably watch it. If
Okay.
you like a lot of his stuff.
Yeah, I will. And we've done that with a lot of other things too. I mean, there's a remake of Body Snatchers, but I've never seen that. Like,
Hmm. Oh yeah, no, that's true too.
which is
The
hilarious because Robert Wilde, just as I was saying that, mentioned Invasion of the Body Snatchers.
oh, that is funny. Well, one thing I was gonna say to you is, when do you think we're gonna remake The Fly again? Because Blumhouse is working on the thing, and we've been talking about The Blob for years. Rob Zombie almost remade The Blob.
Well, that's unfortunate based on what we just watched a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah,
But
no, exactly.
apparently, a Fly remake has been in limbo for a couple of decades.
Okay, so it's been in like the same place as The Blob,
Yeah,
probably.
Cronenberg talked about doing it himself or doing.
Interesting.
Yeah, so he doesn't apparently make sequels and made a big deal out of that. And he was like, if I did another Fly, it would be like a spiritual follow up, but it wouldn't have any of those characters and it would be a different story. So that's what he wanted to do. And that has fallen through apparently for various reasons. There were attempts to make a kind of a Halloween-esque sequel that would non-canonicize the original sequel.
Yeah.
And there were a couple of attempts at that, and that never came to fruition either. So, based on what you just said, I'm going to assume that never happens until Blumhouse gets the rights to this.
It'll be Blumhouse. And Blumhouse has said that The Thing is just going to be another remake, but I'm waiting for the day they go, oh no, Kurt Russell's going to be in it, and it's going to be a sequel.
But anyway, we'll go ahead and get into this here in a second. I went ahead and pulled out my Jeff Goldblum hair for this. I was watching this movie going, oh wow, my hair is as long as his is now. And folks were talking about that in the comments, so thanks for the compliments, folks. Anyway, what do you think of my insane Jeff Goldblum hair?
It's especially good when you go. It like went into slow-mo for me, and I could hear some 80s rock playing. I was like, whoa.
Dun, 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 dun. Somebody was asking, was it Senior Sticks, did you get your hair straightened because it's normally curly? No, I usually have it pulled back, and I had it pulled back all day long. So when it's like that, it's just
kind of pulled it straight.
Yeah, so it's going to be straighter. Like if I woke up this way and left it, like, combed it or brushed it, but then left it like this all day, it would be curly. Anyway, enough about that. Let's go ahead and watch The Fly. I'm so excited. I've got lots to say. I wish I'd seen this 2 or 3 times because I feel like I would probably have even more interesting, possibly more insightful things to say because this is an oddly dense movie. There's ideas here. I don't know, man. I'm excited. I want to analyze this at some point. I really do.
Oh, it tickles all of your sci-fi sensibilities.
Boy, does it ever. And also, I appreciate Jeff Goldblum's casting in Jurassic Park so much more after this.
Well, that was the thing I was going to ask you.
Because he's the opposite character?
Oh, yeah, no, absolutely.
It's great. Like, he's the guy that made Jurassic Park in this. Yeah. Essentially.
Well, that was the thing I was going to ask you, which is, are you with me on this is his best performance, or do you think just like nostalgically, like with Jurassic Park, like you kind of can't beat that, or would you or do you need more time with it?
No, I think I would say that.
Yeah,
it's really compelling. Just the transformation. We'll talk about it. Let's go ahead and watch it, folks. Make sure that you're at timestamp 0 and get ready to press play when I say now. I'll be running a timer on the screen, so if you fall off for some reason or you're coming in late, you'll be able to see it. To see where we are approximately in the movie, and you can watch this movie on HBO Max or Hulu. I don't know if you have to also have a Max subscription to watch it on Hulu, but Hulu's how I'm watching it.
Yeah,
it's got the HBO logo in the corner, so I'm not sure if you have to be subscribed to that. I happen to be subscribed to both, but yeah. Anyway, so here we go. Everybody, please press play right now. Oh, and actually, because I'm watching this on Hulu, I had like an extra 5 seconds where it has like the R logo. Did you have that?
No. Do you want me to pause it for a second?
Yeah, why don't we go ahead and start over? Sorry, guys, I hate to do that.
No worries.
Get it past that, if you're watching this on Max or Hulu, because I bet a lot of people are going to stream it the way I'm streaming it. Get it past the HBO logo, and then it says R for graphic
Oh my
violence
God,
and
Disney Plus, pause.
brief nudity, etc. And then pause it
There we
just at the 20th Century Fox logo. Sorry about that, everybody. Let me reset my timer. Okay, everybody get reset back to 0.
Disney Plus was like not okay with me rewinding it and then pausing it when I hit the end. It would just wouldn't.
Oh, it's
do
on
it.
Plus where
Like
you are
6
because
tries.
Disney owns all Fox's stuff now.
Yeah. Yeah, we have the cool Disney Plus.
Okay, I'm going to give everybody just a couple of seconds to get rewound and get ready to go here.
Be kind, rewind.
All right, here we go. Everybody, please press play. For real this time. Right now. I gotta love that old 20th Century Fox logo.
I know, right? It's so weird now seeing it without Fox. I don't like it.
You feel like you're at an opera right away.
Yeah.
You got this all-consuming score that just hits you from all sides. Like, listen to this with good headphones or surround sound. Oh, it's killer! Bomb, bomb, bomb!
That's the type of movie you'd want to hear, like, with a, like, orchestra playing.
Yeah!
So I know some theaters do that.
Apparently, Cronenberg did himself a stage version of this.
Oh.
And I'd have to go back and look. I think it might have actually been an opera.
Yeah.
And this is perfect for that kind of material. Both thematically and the score, and it was also scored by Howard Shore, who scored this movie. And wasn't just the music entirely ripped from this. Like, apparently he did an original score for that I'm sure included this theme.
Mm-hmm. Well, I actually forgot that he did this. Now that you're saying that, like, I can hear some Lord of the Rings in this. Yeah.
And see, I didn't recognize that name right away, because I don't know what... Yeah, of course, yeah. Because I don't know Lord of the Rings that well, and... So I was looking at his credits, and I was like, well, some of these movies I've seen, but I'm not, like, thinking about the score that much when I'm watching it. Like, I think he scored Mrs. Doubtfire, like, this stuff that you don't think of the score. And then...
He did Lord of the Rings, The Fly, and Mrs. Doubtfire.
Well, and obviously lots of other things.
Yeah, no, it's just funny.
But an unsung hero, I guess. Not a name that you hear bandied about all that much, even though Lord of the Rings is so big. Like, maybe in your circles you hear him more because you're more of a fantasy guy, but I've not heard a lot of that.
Yeah, well, and that soundtrack is really great, but I don't really hear people talk about him in general.
Matthew Bass says classic monster movie score, epic. Yeah, and like everything else with this movie, very traditional, very old Hollywood, but updated in all the right ways. And boy, does this stand the test of time.
Oh, 100%.
Which was one of the things
this is a perfect movie. Like, there's not a thing in this movie I would change.
As in entertainment, I agree with you. I have a couple of questions about character motivations and things where, like, it is a heightened piece, of course, but because these characters are as well drawn as they are, I've got
a few questions.
I guess just right away, I'll just go there since we're kind of talking about it. But Veronica, who he calls Ronnie through the movie, I don't understand why she gives Stathis the time of day at all, and I feel like at the point where you've got the conflict with the pregnancy, he kind of turns into a bit of a different character. Like, he's completely unsympathetic before that, and suddenly he cares about her in a much more like sympathetic, real way, and he's got a compassion he didn't have before. I just don't buy that the same guy, and you could say he's joking or whatever, but I don't buy that the same guy that crudely in this situation says, when you die, can I have the rights to your body, is also like treating her a lot better later. Like, I don't know. On one viewing, I had a tough time with all that.
Yeah, well, I think the relationship's weird because like, they did obviously date for a while, so like there is feeling there, but like their relationship's not great at the beginning of this movie.
But he's such a creep.
Oh, he is definitely like a weird creep.
And I don't mean to bring too many modern sensibilities to it, because in 1986, I don't know if you're watching it with anything like the lens that a lot of folks would on a first viewing now and be like, wow, this guy, like, I don't know that I trust that he shouldn't be arrested in a Me Too kind of way. Like,
Yeah, absolutely.
you know, is he
Speaking of
secretly a sexual
creeps,
predator? He's sure kind of acting like one by 2022 standards.
yeah, absolutely.
I don't know.
Speaking
I
of creeps, though,
want to get that out of the way now.
if this opening wasn't like done as well as it is, and if they weren't performing it as well as they are, like all of this would be creepy, right?
Yeah, yeah, that's a good point.
But they sell it.
Well, that's the thing is that I think the performances and the directing elevate the script, which is funny because Cronenberg rewrote the script from page one. So the issues I have with the story, I have to blame the director for, but I feel like he's elevating his own material in the way he's shooting it. She had a great couple of years, yeah?
Oh, absolutely.
Between this and Beetlejuice.
Yeah. Well, Gina Davis in general had a pretty good career, and then she does Cutthroat Island, and her career tanks.
Oh,
But
that's a shame.
yeah,
Is she
no,
still
she's
working?
an actress I like quite a bit. Yes, she did a few years ago. She was the lead in an Exorcist TV show, and I
Oh,
went, "Oh, like that probably sucks," but apparently it's really good. So
interesting. I don't know The Exorcist, but I would be half interested in seeing that just to see what she's like now.
yeah, I'd like to see that because I like the original movie quite a bit, and I had no interest until people went like, "Oh, no, it's actually really cool."
Rarely is a couple more perfectly cast than this movie. Like, I kind of can't imagine just the sort of chemistry they have is
Yeah,
unreplicatable. I can't even define it or why it works the way it does. But I
well,
can't help but feel like
yeah,
if it's not these people, this whole thing doesn't work. Like, they have to both be as eccentric as they are. It's not
yeah,
just his eccentricity. Like, she's kind of playing the straight man. Not that this is a comedy, but like, you know, to his like wackadoo.
yeah.
But
He's just kind of out there.
Gina Davis is so like unconventionally attractive.
Hmm.
You know that like she's got a look and kind of a quirkiness of her own, which is why she works in both this and Beetlejuice as well as she does. It's just it's the big eyes, man. He's gonna turn into a bug. She came into this movie with bug eyes in the first place.
Well, apparently, just women with bug eyes was like the thing back then. 'Cause Sigourney Weaver's got that too,
That's true. Well, she's got the
especially in
big
horror.
hair.
Well, that's true too. Yeah.
She's got the glamour shots hair. 123 Rock Fan put in a $4.99 super chat. Thank you so much. I've always thought Goldblum takes his metamorphosis a bit too well. He seems relatively unfazed by normal standards. I think that's part of what's great about it.
Yeah.
If it happened to anybody else, he's so scientifically curious. The whole thing is fascinating to him, and he's just so curious and interested in every stage of the transformation. But he is like he does also sell how freaked out he is initially.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Well, and I think it also does alter his brain to at least some degree. So, like, there
I
is
was
that
gonna
too.
say. Well, and it depends on how you look at it, right? Is his brain altered, or is he a totally new kind of life form in the first place, and the original Brundle was killed in the transformation? Or in the teleportation. I think one of the things I like about this is that it's a whole movie exploring an ethical issue that Star Trek fans have always had with the transporter.
Oh, for sure. Well,
Which
and
is
the
when you're
Star Trek's definitely done this type of a premise, right? Where like something merges.
oh yeah, well this is Tuvix from Voyager, except with a fly instead of two of our main cast members in a suitcase. Nobody ever talks about the suitcase, but there was a suitcase in there. And then when Tuvix is pulled back apart into Tuvok and Neelix, the suitcase is unceremoniously missing.
At least Jeff Goldblum didn't get merged with a stocking in this movie. That would have been real awkward.
Well, and actually, this this has him merging with the machine at the end, which is, of course, just a really interesting metaphor all by itself. And so it even takes the suitcase bit into account.
Yeah, if only you could see like that character, they're a person, but they like their stomachs like widened out like a suitcase.
Oh man, that part of his head that's got the big piece of metal in it,
Oh, it always gets me
it's
is the end
amazing.
of him where it's like the tube that goes along.
Yes.
Like, Flash kind of merges to it.
Yeah, he
Oh,
looks like speaking of Star Trek, he looks like he's part Borg or something.
yeah, yeah, it's horrifying. It looks so good.
One of the big questions I have with the technology is what the range of it is, because Brundle talks about it like as soon as the word gets out. He keeps saying it's going to change the world, right? And that's how he
Yeah.
gets her to go there. And it turns out that it wasn't just a come on. He wasn't just trying to sleep with her. He actually is going to change the world, and he's going to be able to like get rid of all forms of transportation. You're not going to need to drive anywhere after this, or transport logs cross country or anything. But the pods are right next to each other. Like, we don't have a sense of how far you could transport things. It's weird that's never talked about.
Yeah, I guess there is an element of like, don't worry about like that as much for certain things. Like I
Sure.
do like that we don't have to see him build the pods. Like it's just they're already here. Like move forward.
Yeah.
We
Well, that's
don't
the
have
thing
to
that I
deal
would be
with any of
worried about
that.
with a remake, is that we'd have the Ghostbusters problem or the Poltergeist remake problem, where we spend half the movie getting to where the original did in about 15 minutes.
Mhm. No, this movie opens in like a perfect spot where it's like a lot of the stuff you don't really need to know is just already done, and you can move forward from there. Like we don't need to know how he built the pods or
And it's
anything like
amazing
that.
how simple it is. It's textbook storytelling. It gets in and it gets out. It starts where the occasion for story, where the inciting incident happens, and it ends when the story is over.
Mhm. Yeah,
Now,
there's no real epilogue. It's just the story's done.
yeah, no, as soon as he's dead, it's done. Like, this is
Yeah.
his story. That's it. And yes, there's a part of me that is curious enough about Veronica's baby and what that would be. And because there's a mystery about whether she was impregnated before or after, he starts to transform into the Fly, because they do have sex before and after. And there is a sequel, and that's apparently about his kids, so
Yeah.
we know that she had a human being. And I'm
Yeah.
pretty sure the premise of that is not he's born and then he starts to turn into a fly.
Oh,
I
it's
think he
awesome
just...
if he had the fly head like the original.
Yeah, that'd be great. But are you okay with the ambiguity of that? Is there any part of you that wishes that we had a stinger that like shows the birth or something? Because I think
No,
thematically it
think
really
that's the-
kind of works, and we can
I
talk
think
about
that's
that.
the perfect kind of like ambiguity at the end where it's like, like you kind of decide what you think is going on with that. Like, it's not super important to like this story. Like, you don't really need the answer by the end. So it's a good thing to kind of walk away thinking about.
I was really surprised because the movie makes such a big deal out of that mystery that we don't get that answer, and then like in the early second act, we get that dream sequence, that nightmare that's horrifying, where she's giving birth, and it's great because it actually kind of throws you off. You actually think for a minute that maybe we jumped ahead, or that the process is faster because of his transformation somehow, right?
Yeah.
There's every reason to think at first that she really is giving birth and doesn't want to, and then. Well, actually, I don't even think you would. The idea is that you would be fast forwarding, right? Because she's wanting to get the abortion, and then she just has the baby right there, and then and it's not a baby, and it's this crazy worm thing, or is it supposed to be like kind of a cocoon kind of thing?
I think it's like a larva. Type
Like a
thing.
what? Yeah, there you go. and then she wakes up, and so of course the whole movie and she keeps trying to get the abortion. So this is a dark movie. It's also really fun to watch.
Hmm.
But then at the end, you don't find out. Thematically, it's interesting. Like, the more I thought about it, the more I liked that choice, finally. Because he says that the last real trace of his humanity is, in his mind, in the baby that he impregnated her with. It's kind of more interesting to not know once they bring that up, I think.
Absolutely. No, I like that there's a bit of ambiguity there. I like movies that let you think about things, and it's not just like, okay, here's this.
Yeah, we're not spelling out the moral of the story or any of that. I love this as a metaphor because you can make it a metaphor for a number of things. And at the time, there was a lot of writing about this, course 86, as a metaphor for AIDS, which was not at all Cronenberg's intent. And he was really surprised that people were saying that, and then said he could totally see it. But it was a lot more about just, he said, natural aging and dying, and how that's a thing we all have to deal with. I'm seeing much more of a traditional over-reliance on technology, playing God, mad scientist kind of thing with it.
Yeah, like your Frankenstein type thing.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of Jekyll Hyde meets Frankenstein, really.
Thing, right? Where
say again, sorry?
Oh, no, I said that's why I kind of like the death of the author thing, right? Where the AIDS thing isn't a Cronenberg intention, but it's absolutely there.
It works.
You can definitely read into that. And yeah, it's not the intention, but like you can kind of analyze the movie on that level, and it holds up.
Well, and this is one of those movies, one of those pieces of art, I should say, even that like really stands on its own and takes on its own life, and the original intent doesn't matter. I don't even think this movie, just on one viewing anyway, is as much about what Cronenberg says it's about, and he made it.
Yeah, it kind
I don't fully agree with him.
Yeah.
It's his movie. He deserved that. The move is to flush the toilet. She was spot on there. I hate this guy.
No, he looks like Walter Peck.
He does look
that sucks.
I was smacking myself the whole movie trying to figure out, hit myself in the head trying to figure out who he reminded me of. That's exactly what it is.
Yeah, I think the first time I watched it, I was like, is that Walter Peck? No, like, that's not him.
He looks a little bit like, what's his face from Three's Company?
Oh, I've never seen that.
It's not coming to me.
Is that also Walter Peck?
Nobody's got that beard. Rainbow Nightmare, wasn't Stockman in the TMNT Batman movie basically Jeff Goldblum in this movie? Yeah, he was. And the sound-alike was so close, I for a second wondered if they somehow got Goldblum to come in and do that voice. But obviously, Baxter Stockman in the 87 show was an homage to this, and that was only because he doesn't turn into a fly until the second or third season, and that was only a couple of years after this.
Well, and visually, he's more like the original one, right? Because like, he is like the scientist with the big fly head.
Yep. But he's acting like Jeff Goldblum.
Yeah. No, it's awesome.
It's such a fun choice. I saw so many influences from this movie after watching it that I would have never known, of course, not having seen it. And this is another one of those big puzzle pieces where like the pop culture world makes more sense to me now. Like, I had no idea just how influential this movie was.
Oh,
it's everywhere.
Sure. No, absolutely. Just like a lot of horror and sci-fi stuff was looking at this, and then you have stuff like Ninja Turtles and things like that that's not connected to either.
Yeah, I mean, you get a lot of parodies of this.
Yeah,
certainly, but just stylistically, I think this, and obviously, sci-fi thematically, it's building a lot of things that came before. You can't always tell if other things after this are directly coming back and looking at this. But visually, I think it had an impact that is not talked about a lot. Like when this movie comes up, I hear people talk about Goldblum, and that's about it. I don't know why people don't talk more about the makeup with this movie, which is apparently the only thing a Cronenberg movie ever won an Oscar for.
Interesting. I think this right here is probably, to me, like the most horrifying thing is this baboon that's inside out.
Yeah,
It's
that's pretty messed up.
it's super
Ugh.
grotesque. It's
Well,
awesome.
and you said to me after I watched it and told you how much I liked it, you weren't sure if I would care for it because my sensibilities are kind of against the grotesqueness of this movie. But man, you put a good story behind it, and you make me buy that this is the only way to tell it. And I don't really see past all of that. It wins me over.
Well, and it also probably helps that we don't start in that place. Like, we are starting in a more traditional sci-fi place, and then that gets more and more crazy as we go.
And it's making me like this couple in the first place.
Yeah.
Do you think they get romantically involved too easily, too quickly, given because I did feel that way a little bit on first viewing, and I'm thinking it will probably win me over more and more as I see it, because even right now talking over this, I'm starting to wonder if I'm right or not about that. But right away, she's like, this guy doesn't get out very much. He is really eccentric. He doesn't know how to talk to women. I'm finding him really interesting, or what he's doing interesting, and it's going to be able to further my career. But like, they have a definite chemistry, of course. But the first time I saw this, I kind of felt like
It was a little too fast.
maybe yeah, I'm getting her starting to care about him, but it is that kind of typical, and now they're in bed together. The thing that you had in a lot of movies from this period in the early 90s.
Maybe. I think for me it's just like both actors sell it well enough that it doesn't really bother me.
So again, we're elevating the material.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Tom, that's
No,
not a
like you
bad
said
point.
earlier, you kind of this movie probably doesn't work without them. At least to the same degree. Like they're so just perfect.
Yeah, I wonder how this would read in prose. Like, I get that the short story is very different from this, and I don't know that this romance is even in that because I haven't read it.
I didn't even know it was a short story until you said that.
Just like The Thing
Just
and
like
from
The
the
Thing.
same period, yeah.
Yeah. That's
Or
interesting.
close. Maybe there's a decade's difference. I can't remember because I think Who Goes There was actually no, that was early 50s, was it not? It's been too long since I had to do it like a
I
term
still have
paper
to
about
read
that in
that
college.
too. I'd like to read that.
Tom Toodle Super Chat, that's the Galaxy Quest exploding pig gag. It looks a lot like that. Yeah, this is grosser, but yes, you're not wrong. Robert Wild, kind of like Cap's favorite movie, Batman '89, where the couple gets together super quick. Yeah, that's true, and that, but that feels a little bit more like in the moment, kind of a fling that develops into something more.
Yeah. Um, Speaking of things that are kind of like that too, I think that Ant-Man bit with the lamp is probably inspired by this too. Where it's like they put it in the pod and they shrink it down and it turns into like a jelly.
Yeah, that's a good call. I wouldn't have thought of that. I'm racking my brain right now because there were several things while I was watching this yesterday that were coming to me where I was like, oh, and this thing is the fly, and this thing is the fly, and I can't remember a lot of it right now. But I'll mention this real quick in case I forget at the end, but because there's so much interesting stuff to talk about with this ending. But I was having massive flashbacks to both Alien and Terminator 2, and I was shocked by that.
Oh, absolutely.
The way that scene is lit, and the way the cinematography, it looks like both of those movies.
There's definitely quite a bit of Alien in this movie as well. Just even just small things like the computer stuff, and obviously that's just the time. But like how much we have characters talking to computers or like looking at them and whatnot. It's very reminiscent of that.
123 Rock fan, for me, The Fly and Fight Club are tied for being the only movies I've ever literally taken a shower afterwards. I was not grossed out by this movie in the way I expected to be. I will say there's one shot I turned away from, and you'll probably see me do it again. I don't think I can look at it. But there's only one
which
shot.
one is it? Is it where he like rips his nails out or his teeth?
Yeah, you nailed it. You nailed it.
Yeah. No, that is like a
Yeah.
that's rough.
The other thing that wins me over just very quickly is the attention to detail and the thoughtfulness about the technology. So it's nice that we're not bogged down too much in the science of it. I mean, there's almost no technobabble in this movie. You notice that? Any of that we get is really in the computer. And Goldblum starts kind of science speaking when he's turning into the creature and talking to himself. But it's not about how the technology works. It's about how flies work.
Yeah. When even like what we're doing right now, like I really like the discussion about how the computer can't understand like flesh.
Yes,
like, it's just
that's why I brought that up here.
Yeah,
and so they're trying it with a steak, and why like because at first you think it might be a like what makes a man, the humanity question, and we certainly play with that. With the breakdown of the man going from one pod to the other, that question would still be there even if you didn't have the fly, and it's talked about, and it's very subtle, but it's thoughtful about that whole thing. And that's that Star Trek question, is like every time you get on a transporter pad, when you get transported somewhere else, are you still the same person? Because the computer has to encode you and put you back together, and there's an interpretation there. And this talks about that interpretation, and Brundle has to tell the computer what makes flesh, or the nuances of living tissue as opposed to a non-living thing. And so by definition, it has to be something else when it goes to the other side, arguably, right? Because it's being interpreted by the computer. But I really like that it starts with flesh. That's so interesting.
Mm-hmm. No, I really like that because obviously, like metal or whatever, you're teleporting, like it's much simpler than like actual living tissue.
Yeah, we're breaking down, because so much science fiction, of course, talks about the difference between man and animal, or if there really is one, right? The rational versus animal instinct. And then this movie has that, but it also breaks it all the way down to the difference between types of matter. Types of solid matter, living tissue versus inanimate objects, and what makes us different, not just from a baboon, but from this monster drink.
Yeah, no,
see, because he turns into a monster.
Ooh. I like the monster logo because it's like the three Man-Thing trunks, just without his head.
Speaking of Man-Thing, would you talk a little bit, Austin, about he's got crazy freaky eyes too?
Everyone's got weird eyes.
Would you talk that was the casting call? We need people with crazy eyes, you guys. Would you talk, Austin, a little bit about your horror sensibilities and why this movie speaks to you personally? Because as I was watching this, especially toward the end, when Brundle all but loses his humanity, I thought, oh, Austin likes this for probably the same reasons he likes Man-Thing.
Yeah, I hadn't really thought about that, but that is an interesting thing, especially because by the end, he is like a creature that can't talk or anything. Like, he is just like a big monosyllabic monster. But yeah, I guess it does have that same kind of sensibility of like the scientist that, messes himself up in that way.
He's a creature that has residue of a man, but it's not a simple transformation where like the man is still necessarily in there somewhere. And the way you were describing Man-Thing on last week's stream, because I didn't really know anything about the origin of Man-Thing,
Yeah.
I thought about that while I was watching this, where I was like, this has that.
Yeah, that's interesting. I've never really thought to compare them.
I'm gonna
And
make him like this
both of
movie
the
even more than he did, you guys.
Yep, and both of them can burn things. Except
That's
one,
true.
like dissolves them with like acid, but
Yeah, this is a typical comic book supervillain origin story, right? Like this is the movie that I just had this thought that the Sony Spider-Man universe without Spider-Man should be looking at as the template for all of their bad guy movies. This is what they should be making.
because they shouldn't be making like superhero movies where they fight other supervillains that are just them.
They put it into the formula. You have the typical superhero third act, and then you tack on something that tells us they're still not really that good of a person at the end.
Yeah.
You know, the
Although
anti-hero
this movie would
thing.
be better if Michael Keaton walked in and said, you know, Fly, I don't know how I got here. Maybe we can do some good.
It had something to do with Spider-Man.
It had something to do with the Fly.
Another thing that some of it's coming to me now. Speaking of comics and Spider-Man, Man Spider's looking at this.
Oh, absolutely.
No way around it.
Although, when is Man Spider? Is that a 70s story?
Well, I was thinking. I think you're
Like
right. I think it is. But also, once again, keep in mind that the original Fly could also inspire stories too.
Yeah.
But the way Man Spider is handled, specifically in the 90s animated series, is looking at this movie. There's no way it's not. I love the art on that magazine cover. It's great. I kind of want that.
I wonder where that prop is.
But I'm sure somebody's made a replica, and I kind of want to order one.
Yeah, it's probably somewhere. Jeff Goldblum probably just has that. Let's be honest.
And then I also thought, I bet Jeff Goldblum probably has quite a collection of things from movies he's. I don't know why, but I can't help but think that he's one of those actors that would probably take things.
Yeah, he seems like that type of guy.
I also found myself thinking about Fant Forstick quite a bit watching this because
this is what it wanted to be. Like they specifically name drop Cronenberg.
Oh, I didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah,
well, and here's the thing. I hear people say Cronenberg
things.
all the time, but I've never really watched his movies. So when people talk about Cronenberg, are they mostly just talking about The Fly? Because I've heard that that a lot of his other movies go to the body horror place too, and I just don't know what his other movies are like.
He just makes a lot of body horror stuff. So it's just like this type of thing.
You got to wonder how different, and we talk about this kind of thing all the time, where director swaps and actor swaps, and like what would the world be like if somebody else, like if Will Smith played Neo. Cronenberg was originally set to direct Total Recall, which I didn't know.
Oh, fascinating. Okay.
Yeah. And what would things be like if he'd made that instead of what's his face, the RoboCop director, Verhoeven. Yeah,
that's weird. I can't even picture that.
This was apparently the highest grossing, most successful movie in Cronenberg's career, I guess, even to date.
Yeah, I knew that. This is his most successful film.
Yeah, and I have to imagine, unless he just made it so different that for some reason people liked it a lot less, like made it different in the wrong way. If he had made Total Recall, that would have also probably been true.
Yeah, that's interesting. It's like one I learned the other day is that John Carpenter was set to direct Top Gun. What does the world look like? What does the world look like if that's a Carpenter movie? I don't know.
I don't know. That's so interesting.
Well, like I wonder because in Fant Four Stick they get their powers because they get drunk and they go in the thing, right? That's looking at this, right? Because that's basically why he does the transformation when he does it. Like he gets drunk and he's jealous about her ex-boyfriend.
Yeah, he just gets really stupid and irresponsible.
But it doesn't feel stupid in the way that it does in that movie.
No, like
I don't think.
it is irresponsible, and there are sort of similar consequences. But for some reason, I buy this character doing it more, and like I sympathize with him enough. Like it's the wrong call, but he's also halfway there anyway. That's the big
Yeah.
difference, right? He really is desperate to make the human trial happen because he's afraid of the word about this getting out, and he needs to stay in control of it.
Hmm. No, absolutely. Well, and then he's got two things in his life. He's got her and he's got this monkey. So if she's gone, you might as well just do it.
Immediately, I found myself going, and like I like that this movie doesn't over-explain things,
Yeah.
but it's also somewhat distracting sometimes, the things that it doesn't explain, where you're like you're supposed to, these are obviously flawed people, and again, very eccentric people, and particularly Brundle is not exactly living on planet Earth in some ways, right?
Mhm.
But why does he have baboons?
Oh, I think just because that's like the first thing you go to for testing this type of stuff, right? Is a monkey. Like you're.
And again, I
I mean,
don't want
that's
to
what we
bring.
do with like space and stuff.
That's
Like,
true, but like I don't want to bring too much in the way of modern sensibilities to this, but it is a little bit harder to some degree to sympathize with him when he blows up a baboon and then he decides to use another baboon, where you're just like, I don't know, there's a lot of animal cruelty happening with this guy, and then they try to smooth that over a little bit when the second baboon is okay, and then I think it's right here, and then he's like, I'm really, I'm maybe it's not right here, but he's like, I didn't mean to kill your brother. I'm really sorry about that.
well, Jeff Goldblum's also just the type of guy that would be naked and hug a monkey. Let's be honest.
Yeah, if he hasn't written his autobiography yet, that's probably what the Jeff Goldblum memoirs should be called.
That'll just be the
Naked
cover.
and
That
hugging a
image.
monkey. And what is it with Jeff Goldblum and nudity and partial nudity? Like, he's really known for this in two big movies. The way
Is
he's got
that
his shirt off in Jurassic Park, and
okay? Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. Well, he was like a big sex symbol at the time.
123 Rock fan, $1.99 super chat. Gene Siskel loved this film. That's surprising. It kind of is, because he didn't like horror and he wasn't a big science fiction guy. But then some of his absolute favorite favorite movies were science fiction things. So it's kind of weird when he goes, because I've heard him say this several times. I've watched a lot of Siskel and Ebert and in interviews with the both of those guys, and I'm a big fan of them. And he very often will say, well, I didn't love this Star Trek movie, but I'm not big into science fiction. And then Wrath of Khan comes out, and he goes, this is great, this is awesome. And like that's a more universal movie, certainly, but then he goes to his top 10 films of the 1980s. So 1986, this movie is number 10 in his top 10 movies of that year. And I might be remembering this incorrectly, but I think he put it on his top 10 of that decade.
That's crazy.
I may be wrong about that.
Yeah.
I'll have to go back and watch that video. I've been binging them in the background, and I saw that video a week ago, but I think he said that. But I think he has the same thing that I do, where he can be really won over with a thing because it's character driven and he comes to care about the people involved, and because it's made in such an interesting artistic way where you kind of, in some ways, love it more than you might even a really good entry of a genre you're really into, because you walked into it not expecting to care, and then it made you care, so you walk out going, I'm gonna remember that.
No, absolutely. I mean, they could have like hit or miss stuff with that too. Like they both really loved Halloween, but like they don't really like horror stuff.
Yeah.
Either of them. And of course, they both didn't like The Thing.
Daniverse, it wasn't on Siskel's Top 10 in the 1980s. Okay, I'm glad somebody knew. If that's the case, then I must have just been remembering that 86 video. That's still remarkable, though.
No, top 10 of a year is still really good. Especially when it's, of two genres that you don't really like.
It's almost like they're blocked sleeping together in such a way where they know that there's a movie camera.
What do you mean? I constantly sleep with the blanket exactly just at crotch level and covering nothing else.
Yeah, and women in movies always sleep with blankets exactly at the chest level.
Well, I've learned from movies, women always sleep like face down.
Yes.
So that way they can't show anything.
Right. And if they're face up, they're always, I'm speaking broadly, but they always are awake and holding the blanket so that you don't see anything.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. Like this.
Well, she's not awake right now, but...
No, but...
Oh,
like,
no,
she's
she's
like,
waking up. Okay. But, like, yeah, she might as well be, like, dressed in a dress. Like, she put it on like that. Why would you sleep like that?
That's just how people... Oh, no, there we go.
Well, then she dropped it, but she turned around first. Yeah. And this is rated R. They could have done some nudity. They don't really.
Mm-hmm. No, this is a very sexual movie, but there's not, like, a ton of nudity.
Well, it's kind of like the conversation we had the other day about Evil Dead, where it's avoiding some of those cliches.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, not as much as that is, but it is interesting, like, how much sex there is in this movie and how little you see of it. I don't know, apparently it was just a late 80s thing. Because I think Hellraiser's the next year, and that is basically like an erotic horror movie.
Well, and then speaking of Total Recall, like, that movie was kind of famous or infamous for its nudity at the time.
Oh, yeah, the three-boobed woman.
Yeah.
She even made it into the remake that is like a no-fun movie, but they threw that in. Paul Verhoeven's just unlucky on, like, really boring remakes.
Which, for the record, I think one of the Star Trek movies maybe did that first. Or was that after?
It's in 5. But I'm not sure.
Is it in 5 or is it in 6?
It's in 5. Because it's the Shatner one.
Well, and that's a thing that Roddenberry wanted in TNG.
Oh, interesting.
He wanted Deanna Troi to have 3, if not 4. I can't remember. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And I think there's a famous quote from her where she's like, "I'm glad he didn't try to go for that because I was not gonna have to wear that all the time. Like, that'd be no fun."
No, that'd be a giant pain in the ass.
This movie, I think, finds a really great balance between, like you're talking about with the sexuality of my buying them as a very romantic couple, but the movie itself never gets especially sensual because it's gonna be so creepy. You know what I mean? So, like, it doesn't work as, like, an erotic piece, but inside the film, it is for them, if that makes any sense at all. I don't know how to articulate this notion.
No, I mean, it's like an erotic piece, but not for, like, 12-year-olds.
Was he this fit before, or did he get more fit because of the teleportation?
He was in pretty good shape, but he's definitely, like, more acrobatic and stuff now.
He's just a really well-built nerd.
Yeah.
One Dude the Rock fan says, all the movies you guys are talking about, I've literally watched for the first time this month. I feel like I've done a ton of homework for this live stream. And I think he's the guy who before we started, said, I just happened to watch this today for the first time. Didn't even know you guys were doing this.
That's awesome. Well, I hope you liked all of that stuff, man. That's great.
I think I've come to the place where this is my favorite experience with a movie. A kind, and I don't mean this specifically, but my favorite kind of experience with a movie. This is not my thing, and it feels like it's my thing. And
Yeah, like
as you say,
it's a thing that's not your thing that is made for you in a weird way.
that's it. Yeah, thematically it absolutely is. The science fiction of it absolutely is. But it is sci-fi horror, where the horror is kind of in front of the science fiction. Like it's not. It doesn't get bogged down with the science of it.
Hmm. I love this joke where he's just filling his coffee with the sugar.
That's great. Yep. It's also kind of interesting that there's sort of all these tells about what's happening to him, but
Mhm.
it's almost in a way more for her. Like we have such a good eyes in character with her that even though we have to know what's happening even before we get to the transformation or the teleportation, the movie's called The Fly. Like the movie is very self-aware of what the audience has to know going in. But it works as kind of a mystery unraveling for her because I'm invested enough in her character.
Well, one of my favorite things just in his performance is that after this change, he's so much more like he's just kind of like this at all times, like a fly, and it's such a good detail.
When he starts banging on the table,
Yeah. I love that he calls for the waiter, and then 3 seconds goes, "Waiter, Jesus Christ!"
And then it's just cuts. It's a really good cut.
Yeah.
So yeah, I guess this scene is really important because they could conceive here, or she might have conceived a week ago.
Yeah, like they're doing it enough that it could be at any time, really.
That line, especially knowing what is happening to him, is gross.
Which line, sorry?
I have to say it out loud when she says there can't be any fluid left in your body.
Yes.
Oh my god, that's gross.
Yeah, she's lucky that he's not doing his vomiting yet.
So, the smartest move this movie makes, and this is there before Cronenberg even gets his hands on it, because he changes quite a bit about the script, but the skeleton of what it was is pretty well intact, is that he transforms so gradually, and we get his performance throughout, and B, the big change, one of the big changes that Cronenberg does make, which is that we still have Goldblum giving a performance almost all the way till the end. The draft, before he got his hands on it, had him fully transformed about 2/3 into the movie.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I feel like he transforms out of Jeff Goldblum at the right time, because it's just mainly for the climax, really. Like, it's just right at the end.
But it's not a typical climax. It's not all action. He's not like... No. It's not just fighting. Like... he is... We do have a victim. He does turn into a horror creature. He is gruesomely starting to kill a guy. But I feel like, I'd love to see that original script, because I would think if he transforms completely into the Fly 2/3 of the way in, that last act has to be just chase. Like, what else would it be?
So.
Unless we get away from him and he's just kind of in the background, and we're like, where is he? What's he gonna do? Where is he? And that could work.
Mm-hmm.
Given that
it goes like full horror.
Given that she's a good protagonist.
Mm-hmm. Well, and you said earlier about the Sony thing. Like, this is what a Lizard movie would be, right?
Yeah.
Or, like, should be?
Yep.
Because you're even getting that, like I want to turn people into... It's not like I want to turn people into flies, but it's like I want people to do the same thing that I did.
Yeah, it is nice that that's not his plan.
Yeah.
But no, you're right.
Built a giant pod over the city.
And like he's gonna transport it to this other giant pod over another city.
He's gonna merge 2 cities.
But you're right, that is... Yeah, all this talk about the flesh and is really interesting.
Yeah. Well, I love how, like, goofy he is when he's, like, screaming this, but it's also just really good. Like, it's that right level of he's kind of weird and like silly, but
Neurotic.
it just works. Where he's screaming, he's like, "You're afraid of the flesh."
That shot of that hallway is really neat. I wonder where they shot that.
Yeah,
Listen to the
I wonder
score
if
here. Oh, it's killing. Yeah, I want to see this with an orchestra.
yeah.
I
Oh, it'd
didn't
be
expect to
amazing.
walk into this of all movies and go, this might be one of my new favorite scores. Well, it's so big. I love huge scores for small movies.
No, absolutely.
I love
You
movies
know,
like
it
this
makes
that
it feel
feel
so
like
much
an
bigger.
epic. There are 3 total characters in this movie that matter.
Yeah, and there's like 2 locations.
Yeah. But doesn't it feel huge?
No, it absolutely does.
Because, of
I
course,
mean,
the
you spend
implications of it.
most of the time in that lab, which is just like a factory looking place or like a warehouse.
Yeah. But it's also a really cool set, and it's wonderfully well detailed, and you buy everything that's in there. I love his rambling at the beginning about his espresso machine.
Yeah, absolutely.
And usually this much doesn't stick with me about a movie that I just saw, but I feel like I've seen this 3 times already.
No, I'm glad you had the experience with it that you did, because I was like, Cap probably like this, but there is that chance that it hits you the wrong way.
Well, that's the difference between something like this, and my apologies for saying it like this, because I know Evil Dead's your favorite, 2 is your favorite movie, but
That's fine.
that was a movie where I was like, I'm appreciating this, it's fun, I'm enjoying it, I don't know if I ever need to see this again. And
When I figured, like, even if you liked that movie, it wouldn't be like, this is like one of the best movies of all time. Like, it
this
would be
is going in my collection. This would be probably on a top 20 sci-fi movies for me.
Yeah, like if you did that, I remember you did a
Oh, it's
video
gross.
years
Stop it.
ago that was like best sci-fi that's not Star Trek. Like it would probably make your list now, I guess.
Yeah.
Wow. He should have stopped and then went, "Waiter, Jesus Christ."
What I don't understand is how the guy kept his arm there while the acid was burning through his arm.
That reminds me of Alien there too, because it's like that milky substance of the robots
Yeah.
in Alien.
From the they're not called replicants. What are they called in Alien?
They're just like androids.
No, they have a name though, don't they? Is it just
Uh,
androids? I thought they had a name.
They might. It's been a while since I watched that movie.
Tom, are we going to watch The Fly 2 next? I mean, I don't plan to immediately do a commentary on that. I may watch it, but I'm leery of it.
I don't plan on ever watching that. I've heard it's really bad.
Really? It was directed by the guy who did the makeup effects, though. And so I'm
Okay.
sure it still looks good.
Here, let me
Unless
look
it was
this
made
up.
with $19.
Yeah. Well, and sometimes you need the right director to show that off, right? Like,
That's a good point. Chris
'cause
Wallace.
you can have good effects, but you got to film it the right way.
And not the Chris Wallace that some people might be thinking of, but it was made by the guy who did this makeup, whose name is Chris Wallace.
Oh yeah, like the first picture that came up when I looked up The Fly 2 does not look great.
Oh.
Here, I'm gonna send this to you on Facebook. It reminds me of like Violator in the Spawn movie.
Well, you're giving me more incentive to watch it, though.
Yeah, I mean, go for it. It's got a 29% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Hey, I've liked movies with 29% before, probably not for the right reasons.
It'll probably just be this with like out good characters, right?
Yeah. No, I'm sure. I mean, how's that not just retread?
Mm-hmm.
The problem with the idea of a sequel to a thing like this, oh, that does look like Violator from Spawn.
Right?
That's amazing. Look at this. Oh my god. A sequel to this, in my mind, I mean, I always say you can make anything work, but The first thing I know you're doing wrong is if the word fly is in the title. You don't make it about what the creature was again. You make it about the teleportation technology.
You
Right?
almost do like the Hammer Frankenstein thing, where Hammer moved away from like the monster thing, and it just became like Dr. Frankenstein's the villain, and like
Yeah.
he's the one that kind of moves forward.
Yeah, or you do some kind of goofy retroactive thing. This is a bad idea, but you could tell a good story with it. You do some goofy retroactive thing, Austin, where somehow there's like a copy of Jeff Goldblum that was
In the machine.
made in the initial teleporter, and like he's out there somewhere wondering if he's the original guy. Like you could do something like that. I don't see how that would happen, but
I want it to be the baboon.
yeah, that woman's obnoxious, but I still kind of feel bad for her.
That blonde woman?
Yeah.
Eh.
Well, I mean, that's a bad day. He is creepy at this point, and he's got like a overdone libido now, so he's trying to sleep with anything that moves, and
No, he just wants to put things in his pod too.
that too. Well, and that's what makes it really freaky, because
That
the
is not a euphemism.
right. And the implications of that are really messed up, because if he makes someone go through, he is, again, arguably killing them in favor of creating a new life form.
Mhm. Well, and since he's the only person that goes through, there's also a question of even if the fly was not there, like,
That
would he still be the same person?
would he still be the
Like,
same
is that
person?
also part of the issue?
Yep. Well, that's the most interesting thing about it to me. Like the kind of grafting thing is cool. It is fascinating, of course, because he's created kind of like a new species. So it isn't just that the fly has changed him, but that. And I love the way he talks about it, Brundlefly.
Yeah.
There's this new entity now, but as you say, if the fly wasn't there, there would also be a new entity that would just be Brundle again. But he probably wouldn't be able to tell the difference, because, as far as we can tell, all of his augmented traits are also because of the merger with the fly.
Yeah, no, absolutely. But the only thing that we see go through that's flesh is the baboon, and it can't speak. So
Yeah. So there's no way to know how different that is. And with the way it's played in the Star Trek, then it becomes kind of like just a philosophical thing before it's anything. Where if it's so close, you can't know what's happened to the immortal soul, if there is such a thing. And so it becomes kind of that if we can't see it, it's not there, it's not a problem kind of thing, which is interesting, because if you were to, and you can never tell this story in Star Trek, I guess New Trek could do this if they wanted to, because they'll do anything. And
this will be in Picard season 3. Don't
yeah,
worry.
and this is cynical enough for them. Yeah, you're not gonna be able to shave that off. But if you found out that the whole utopia of Star Trek was more or less, at least partly built in being built on transporter technology, was based on this lie of nobody is actually themselves again. They've all died after they've gone through the transporter. That's horrifying, and this has that built in. At what twisty cost? You know, are we getting this amazing technology that would make our lives so much easier? And it is that playing God thing. But I also think it's kind of Jurassic Park in that it's not just, you can argue whether or not this is taking technology too far. Should we ever be powerful enough to wield this kind of technology, to be able to like pull molecules apart, put them back together at any sort of range. Should we be able to bring back the dinosaurs? The real question is, or the real statement of both of these movies is, even if that's okay, you certainly have to respect the science, respect the technology, respect nature. And he's cutting corners, he's doing it too fast. So Ian Malcolm would hate this guy, and they're played by the same actor.
Yeah, well, this is why movie Ian Malcolm gets to live and Brundle does not.
Yeah. Now I want to think that this and Jurassic Park are in the same universe. Yeah, that fingernail thing, I can't even deal with it. You notice I didn't watch that.
Yeah, I kept looking down. I was like, is there going to be a moment where you look up and go like, oh, no.
Glad I was in the middle of a diatribe.
It's real rough. That's real gross.
But that's a testament to the movie. It looks real. That's the thing, is everything is so convincing.
Yeah. No, there's not like a single effect that sticks out of my mind that's like, that didn't look good. And there's some really great attention to detail too. Like, I don't know if you noticed it, but when his like head splits open, when he becomes like the full fly creature, you see his eyes pop, like when his face,
yeah,
and they kind of like melt out. It's really cool.
I also like how much this is about personal identity and not just the broader, again, what does it mean to be human question, and the way that's discussed by him, where he puts into the computer not what elements are not human, what elements are not man, what elements are not Brundle. And then the creation of a new life form is not a man fly, it's Brundle fly.
Yeah, exactly. Like, it's so much just about his identity. This scene specifically is what I was talking about earlier, where I was like, there's definitely a lot of alien influence. This is reminiscent of the scene where they go to the computer to ask about their mission.
Oh, that's a good point. Okay, so I'm not crazy. You're seeing Alien in this too.
Mm-hmm. I mean, Alien is like one of, if not like the most influential sci-fi horrors of all time.
Robert, while I love how Austin is so uncomfortable watching the fingernail stuff while Cap is just rambling. Look, I'm trying to make a commentary here.
Cap, you're always rambling.
I don't think I was rambling. I had a point to make. I specifically put that in the back of my mind and said I'm going to make sure. You know what, Robert? You don't have to watch this commentary. You can watch the movie without the commentary.
Go watch somebody else's rambles, sir. Go outside and see like a rambling drug addict.
That is in the eye of the beholder, sir. Nah, I'm just messing with you. I have a weird. I don't even know if I want to say criticism of this movie, but just observation. Yeah. I thought the name choices were kind of odd.
Oh, okay.
I don't know, just Jeff Goldblum doesn't look like a Seth to me. Like,
yeah, I mean,
and then Veronica, he's gonna call her Ronnie the whole movie. Just some strange name choices. And Cronenberg changed all the names.
Yeah.
Originally, the main character's name was Jeff, spelled Geoff, and like my stepdad. And I don't know if they changed it when they cast Goldblum, but I don't think they did. I think Cronenberg changed it even before that, but I'm not sure.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, name stuff isn't something I typically think about, where it's like, oh, you shouldn't have named your characters that. So that wouldn't have occurred to me.
It's kind of odd the way the score fades out there, where he starts to like, dun, dun, dun. Okay, dialogue.
Okay, moving on. Oh my god, he's crippled.
I was going to say, isn't it interesting how vulnerable he is right now and how insanely powerful he'll be later? He's going to have all these superpowers.
Even when he started, like, he was doing that thing where he was flipping around on the pole. Like, he's in, like, a weird middle stage right now where he's getting weaker before he gets stronger.
Right. Yeah, it's the calm before the storm, or
Yeah.
darkest before the dawn, however you want to look at it.
Well, it's probably because like there's like so many pieces of his body that are going to start falling off.
Yeah.
So it's like, he's getting weaker because he's in that middle stage where like he's still got it, but that stuff's becoming irrelevant.
It's just really impressive how sympathetic he stays all the way to the end, where even when he's a monster and killing a person, uh, you can't help but kind of appreciate from his perspective where he's coming from and what he's trying to accomplish. Not that I'm rooting for him, like he's just got this real twisted sense of how to preserve his humanity when he decides to use her at the end. I know I'm getting ahead of the movie, but like it's, I don't know. I'm
When it comes to the
tragic
place
is
of
the
desperation, right?
the overused word, but it is that. I'm sorry.
No, I agree with what you're saying. Like we like this character, and then it's just that place of desperation where even though it's wrong and you don't want him to succeed, there's also a part of you that's like it really sucks to see that this has happened to this character. Like it's very tragic, and this is a movie where every time I watch it, I leave feeling bummed. Where it's like like I wish that didn't happen. I wish they
Yeah.
just lived their lives.
And isn't it nice that it had the guts to not have the happy ending?
Yeah, absolutely. It's not like, oh, we found the cure to the fly. You're good now.
And it's not cheap about his death either, where you feel
No.
bad for him when the creature picks up the gun and puts it to his head and all of that, but we don't have the heroic self-sacrifice. It doesn't go to any of those places. He's not a superhero by the end.
Yeah. No, it's a
He
very
is the
sad
bad
moment.
guy. Maybe that's why the other guy has to be so awful at the beginning, is sort of a red herring, so that he seems like so much better in comparison to this guy that is, because he seems less than human at the beginning, and then you get a sense of perspective. I think the idea is you get a sense of perspective, and now this guy, even though he's not a great person, is at the end of the day like a sympathetic, an empathetic person. But I also think they lay that on too thick, and I think the character has a switch where he's a different person midway through, but it cheats a little to get there, maybe. Also, what kind of name is Stathis?
Jerkface's name.
I was shocked to find out that that was the man's first name.
Yeah, I don't know. That's weird.
Robert, that's great. He says you either die of Brundis or you live long enough to see yourself become a fly.
I hope I become a fly then. That'd be awesome.
See, that's the place where I go, no, shoot him in the head. Like, this guy needs to leave and get out of her life. When he said, do I have permission to take your body when this is all... No! That's a bridge too far.
I mean, he's just an editor. Editors are jerks.
What-
Bosses suck.
One of the things that's really sad on her side is the only person she has to go to and confide in during all of this is that guy.
This guy, a guy who breaks into her house to shower.
She's not gonna call her mom or...
I don't even know if she has a mom.
Yeah, I don't know if she has any relatives at all.
Imagine calling your mom and being like, I'm pregnant with a fly.
Well, so here's the thing. She's going to be like, you didn't get married first? Well, it's a little worse than that, Mom. My boyfriend can climb on the ceiling, and we may or may not have conceived after he started transforming into a giant fly.
See, now I want the parody film version of this where it's like Meet the Parents, the fly, and it's like they're at dinner and he starts peeling his nails off.
This all happened because he built a teleporter. Oh, you know what else is cool? The payoff to the fact that there's 3 of them.
Mm-hmm.
I was shocked we used that, because he's got his big prototype.
Yeah.
And then he's got the 2 sleeker models. And then at the end, he's going to use all 3 of them.
Yeah, to make like a big happy family conversion.
Yeah. And that idea only works if you have that other one, but it doesn't feel tacked on because we've got it there from the beginning and it's just natural. But I'm kind of guessing that that's probably an idea that after a lot of the movie was written is put in retroactively, where it's like, well, we need 3.
Mhm.
But it doesn't feel retroactive in the film. It's just real believable.
No, absolutely. Well, that you could see that as being a thing that's just in the script, and then they're looking at it and they go, "Oh, okay, we should probably just have that in the background then, so that
Yeah.
you know, like it's there from the first place. So it doesn't feel like they're cheating."
So I have a question for you.
Yeah.
Fabulous children's book. He has
I love
lines
that.
that feel like they had to have been written by Goldblum but weren't.
Well, there's moments in this that are genuinely really funny, like that sugar
Yeah.
thing earlier. Like this isn't a movie devoid of humor.
No, I mean, it's messed up and in some I feel like it's not hard to watch, but it should be. It's for me it's so weird. Cuz I know you watch a lot of horror movies and stuff with like creepy gross things on the screen, and like I don't like stuff like this, but it's not hard to watch except for the part that is. Even when he does this where like he's got the fly throwing up thing and all of that's not as hard to look at as I would think it would be. I think it's just the context of the thing.
No, 'cause it's really cool because it's like we're thinking about stuff, right? It's like we're thinking about like what that transformation would be.
It's creative. It doesn't put it on
Exactly.
screen to be just to be shocking. And by the way, I meant to mention this earlier, but apparently the nightmare scene where she has the deformed offspring was in the earlier draft before Cronenberg got a hold of it and was supposed to be at the very end, and it was just there to shock the audience.
Oh, so that
Where
was probably like the sequel bait kind of ending.
not sequel bait. It's weirder than that. It was going to be the epilogue, basically,
Yeah, yeah.
where she has. I mean, I guess you could call it sequel bait, but it was the same scene though. We would have known it was a nightmare. Like she has.
Oh, it was still a nightmare.
It was still a nightmare.
Oh, okay. The reason why I said
But
sequel
it's at
bait,
the end.
I thought it's just the ending, and there's no like it's not a dream. Like,
No,
just
it's supposed to shock you for a second right at the end to think, oh God, she's having a deformed, fly child, and then she wakes up, and that's how, like, essentially
thank
that's how the
God that
movie
was
ends.
changed.
Or no, I think maybe even they were gonna then let you know that she had a human child, or
Yeah.
and then there was something, maybe because I read a lot about this earlier. Maybe this was one of the proposed sequels. Something that never got made was supposed to say that she had twins.
One of them's the fly and one of them's human.
They were just supposed to both be human, but that would have been
Wait,
interesting.
wait a minute. I think we did make that sequel with Arnold Schwarzenegger and Danny DeVito.
We were talking about that movie before we started broadcast. Okay, so
No, thank God they changed that then, because that would have been a cheap ending.
it would have been pretty cheap, yeah. So there's maybe a tell, or maybe this is just the 80s. There's maybe a tell that this is a dream sequence in the first place, which is the weirdly colored hallways of this hospital.
I think it's probably just the 80s.
She's
I
going
don't
down, there's
know.
pink hallways, and then it turns out to be a dream sequence. I'm like, I thought those should be white hallways.
This is also, I think, one of the grossest moments
That's true.
is
You
when
know-
they rip out the larva and it's like,
When I say a lot of this wasn't as hard to watch as I thought it would be, I probably cheated and looked away more than I'm saying I did.
well, I don't have an issue watching it. It's just like of the moments, like that's really gross, and it's awesome.
Makes you make that
I love
face.
it. Yeah, it's ugh. Especially it's how big it is, right? Because it's like this big.
And I don't want to see a remake. Well, and as you say, this is a Night Perfect movie minus maybe for me my
Well,
issues
no movie's actually
the
perfect.
with the
But, yeah.
horrible guy, but uh, with Stasis or whatever his name is, I'm gonna start calling him Stasis.
Stathis?
His name is Stasis now. Um, I don't want to see a remake of this that does any of this in CG.
I have that with The Thing. And I mean, we have that because they did a prequel to The Thing, and it looks awful.
I'm
But,
sure
yeah.
we do it because it's cheap, because it's
Yeah.
easier, and because people accept it.
Yup.
And I don't think it's that this is just me, like, just a nostalgia thing, or like I just like old things that remind me of when I was a kid, or like I think everything older is better. Legitimately, a lot of stuff in this looks better than it possibly could if you did it in a computer.
No, there's such just a testament to this like these three movies that I talked about at the beginning, this, The Thing, and The Blob, and just like the practical effects that they use to bring this stuff to life.
It's kind of like what the movie's about, Austin.
Hmm.
It's about the flesh. It's about the
Yeah,
physical. It's got to really be there.
and Jeff Goldblum can actually act with this on. Like it's not like we're
It's
limiting his
crazy how much
performance.
performance comes out of it. Yeah, if it was just a CG creature, like at this point, any movie now, I want to say almost any movie, this would be enhanced with CG, and there would be an uncanny valley effect, and I would complain while most people weren't that it doesn't look real, and there's no reason you couldn't just do this with prosthetics. You know how I know? Because I'm looking at it, and it's believable.
Absolutely. I mean, even just that shot of him walking up, like he's clearly wearing a suit, but you buy it
Yeah.
because it's actually there. Like it's actually a thing on screen that you can see, and it looks really good.
Isn't it messed up how almost proud he looks of losing his teeth?
Yeah,
He seems like excited about it.
I love when he talks about how he's got what is it that he says? It's
You
like
miss some good moments. I like that line.
we talks about like the kind of monuments, like the things that he's lost.
He's
Like
he's talking about right now the
yeah,
Natural History Museum that he has
natural.
in his
That's what it
bathroom.
is. Thank
Yeah,
you.
he's about to say it.
Yeah.
If your teeth are falling out, how are you able to enunciate as well as you do? And then toward the end, he's going to have an almost like not at all human face, and he's going to be crystal clear in his dialogue. It's wonderful. That's that Sam Raimi thing that people complain about that you don't have a problem with, where people have like the like no lips and just the teeth, like up and down like that. But then
Yeah.
like you can perfectly understand them, and like
No,
they
'cause
sound like they
it's
have
really
lips.
amusing. Like, yeah, it doesn't make sense, but who cares? Um, you know what bothers me more with something like that is Two-Face in The Dark Knight, where like that movie wants to be really realistic, but that face is like he wouldn't be able to talk like that, and it takes me out more because it wants to be realistic. While
Oh, that's fair.
stuff like this is much more uh, what's the word? Stylized. So it's like, yeah, of course a character in a Sam Raimi movie can talk without lips.
And this is stylized from the beginning. This doesn't feel absurdist. Like there's the premise itself you could argue is kind of absurdist, of course, but like you can say that about any uh, high concept kind of piece, right? But from the beginning, it feels heightened. It doesn't feel like exactly the world we live in. So I find myself 5 minutes in just accepting this is the reality of this movie, and I'm not comparing it to real life.
Yeah, I mean,
You
we
know,
start
I
with
feel like I'm looking
him.
at
Yeah,
this version of real life, and like that's another way in which it wins you over. And then you come back
yeah,
to reality when you get to the end, and if you start thinking about it, you go, "Oh, okay, I don't like if this was really happening, it wouldn't be like this."
yeah. I mean, we open up with like, hey, I have these pods that I can teleport things with. Like, it's like
Tells you right
already
away
it's
what you're getting yourself into.
exactly, yeah. That's the other thing that would be in a remake. You'd have a scene like that really awful scene in Endgame where Tony's like, I've done it. I've created time travel. But it would be the person saying teleportation.
Yeah. I love the two sides battling it out with him and how subtly that's handled. When he
Yeah,
says, "I'll hurt you if I stay," uh,
yeah.
it's like it's that's the rational human side knowing what it can't control about the insect side.
Mm. Because he's becoming so erratic, but there's like still parts of him that are in there.
And don't you love how, again, just how thoughtful it is about specifically the insect of it? The fly is not arbitrary, right?
Mm.
How different is this from, say, Wolverine trying to fight his animalistic nature?
Mhm. No, absolutely. And like I said, I love how Goldblum plays it because there are like elements of a fly physically that are in his performance, like the like.
My favorite thing he does, there's one bit where he's standing, uh, maybe, I can't remember where, maybe it's in his loft or whatever. There's just this bit where he just does this real quick, and
Yeah,
it's an amazing head turn that like you totally buy, and it looks like a thing he must have practiced. But maybe it's here. I was about to say it was on a roof. Maybe it is here where he'll just do this, and
yeah. It's kind of like
it's the first inkling you have of the fly movements. I think it's right here. Yeah, that's
yeah.
amazing. It's
No,
so subtle.
it's subtle, but like it really puts you into that
It's so fast.
transformation.
When you look at a fly, they do that all the time. It's like blink and you miss it, and it
Mhm.
looks almost like speed of light fast. We're like, how could anything move that fast?
Yeah, no, absolutely. No, he's got that energy where he's just constantly moving and like jittery. Like it's almost like he drank like 15 cups of coffee before every take.
Well, he might have, or he might not have to because he's Jeff Goldblum.
Well, that is true. And as we know now, Jeff Goldblum is fully aware of being Jeff Goldblum. So,
No, it's one of the greatest casting choices of all time because it discovered the insanity that is Jeff Goldblum. Feels like the only person that could play this. Do you know who almost played it though?
I don't.
John Lithgow.
Weird.
Yeah, and he turned it down. Like he was offered to him,
Yeah.
and
That's like a
he has a
completely different
history
movie,
of that.
right?
Say again.
That's like a completely different movie, right?
I would think so.
But sorry, you were saying something about that when I said that.
Oh no, not at all. I was just saying he has a history of that. I forget
Oh, really?
what else. There's another major role that was a career-making role for somebody that he turned down. That you can't tell in interviews if how much he regrets it or not. But I can't remember what now.
When he's not like he can do more horror-y things and like stuff outside of comedy too. Like it's not a matter of me not thinking he could pull this off, but it's just it would be a very different
It'd be a very
performance.
different performance. Yeah. No, Lithgow is scary and stuff.
Yeah, he's the best part of the Pet Cemetery remake.
Oh, I didn't know he was in that. Did you ever see him in Dexter?
No, I've never seen any of Dexter, and he's really good in Rise of the Planet of the Apes.
Yep, absolutely. But of course, he's a more sympathetic character in that.
Mhm. No, of course. See, he's doing it there too, like that exact twitch that you're talking about.
Oh, that's what it was. He was offered Joker in '89.
Oh, weird.
Yep.
That's also a very different performance.
And would have really changed history because, no offense to Lithgow, I really like that actor, but that's not selling movie tickets. Like, a lot of why that movie was as huge as it was because of the star power that it had with Jack Nicholson.
For sure. I mean, I still hear people say like, "Oh, Jack Nicholson's Batman."
Yep. I think that movie would still perform because it was just a thing that people really wanted right then, and a lot of Hollywood did not understand that, I think. But
Yeah, but it wouldn't be the same thing.
it wouldn't have been, I don't think, like the merchandising juggernaut it was. And all of that.
It's like people that talk about how they wish Defoe was Joker in that movie. It's like he would do a really good job, but like it's not really thinking about the business side of things where it's like, no, they were gonna pick someone like Nicholson.
Yeah, well, they almost didn't. I mean,
Well, yeah,
they almost
apparently,
went with
yeah, I didn't
someone
know
much
that.
smaller. Yeah,
Yeah,
we all thought that, but apparently not. Wow, that is a really nice gun case.
it's just a nice everything. I like that he gets to put the gun together. That's cool. That's very Jurassic Park.
He's ready to take on the Terminator.
I wish he said "clever girl" when the fly walked in.
Shoot her! What is the sweater he's wearing? It looks almost like it's got Kevlar underneath.
Well, he looks like a sweater that Keaton's Batman would wear.
Okay, it's maybe a little bit easy that he just presses a button and then he gets Brundle's entire plan.
Yeah, that's movie logic.
I like that better than Brundle explaining his plan to him. He does explain it to Ronnie, but to be fair, he's going to do it to her. So
Yeah.
that's exposition that you can totally understand. See, all of a sudden, this guy has, like, a little bit of sympathy and pathos. And I'm like, you are not the same character you were.
I mean, he does have that sweater, though.
That's true.
So he's not entirely a good person.
Well, and he's going to pay for his horribleness here by losing 2 of his limbs.
Yeah. No, because I think it's like what you said earlier, where I don't think he's necessarily a good person. I just think in comparison, he's not the Fly.
Yeah, but, like, he didn't have to take her to the clinic and...
That is true, but, like, they are ex-lovers. Like, that's not, like, that hard to buy, I guess. And I think he still wants them to be in a relationship, at least early on.
Robert Wilde says this part is definitely the most 50s B movie, especially with the stump. Yeah,
He should have put a chainsaw on it.
and to my point earlier about CG versus practical, like you can tell that this is a rubber suit, but it is easy for me to suspend my disbelief with that than it is the Uncanny Valley thing.
Well,
If
in
the
that
whole
specific
thing-
shot, you can tell that that's not him, and it's like a hose that they're like pumping out of the mouth. But it looks good.
Yeah. No, just this kind of thing has more charm this way. Like, there's so much you can forgive when you can see effort.
Yeah.
And that's nothing. And of course, I don't mean to disparage visual effects people who obviously do amazing things. And of course, I've praised really well integrated effects like the Planet of the Apes movies, where CG is the only way to do that right, and it looks amazing for the most part. But I can see so much effort here that it has to almost look real before I can go, oh wow, I'm so amazed these visual effects people are like, doing such an amazing job. Even if it doesn't look great, they have to put in so many ridiculous hours.
Well, and this is still at a place where a lot of the effects can be different from shot to shot, right? Like,
Yes.
you're having to build things for specific shots. That's a big thing with the thing, is that like from shot to shot, they're having to do different effects to get the exact shot they need.
Tom put in a $2 super chat and says Smallville episode 2. That was another thing, of course, that I thought of, Metamorphosis, and we haven't, done the obligatory mention that obviously all of this starts from Kafka in the first place, with the original Metamorphosis story, which the short story that led to the original 50s movie must have been looking at. In some ways, this is just that story again, except well, sort of. That's not a scientist. That's just somebody that wakes up someday and turns into a cockroach for no reason. But it's kind of like that, except, again, it happens gradually.
Oh, here we go.
So Goldblum's done with the speechifying, and yet
Yeah.
it still feels like he's here.
Yeah, you still feel his character in this creature.
There's so much personality and sadness in the face once. Like, it's crazy.
Oh,
It
there's
turns
the
into a
eye pop.
completely inhuman creature, and it looks so sad at the end when it picks up the gun.
That part's heartbreaking.
Yeah.
Genuinely.
That's what sells the whole thing. Like, I'll go as far as to say, if this ending doesn't work, this whole movie doesn't work.
Hmm.
I mean, there's still a lot you would
Absolutely.
appreciate about it, of course, but like that's what puts it over the. I shouldn't say it doesn't work. What puts it over the top and makes it a great movie, as opposed to just a fun and interesting movie with like good concepts, is that you have an almost ET kind of sympathy with that creature.
Except way better than E.T. 'cause E.T. sucks, but yeah,
But the way people responded to ET,
yeah.
even if you didn't.
If I were a kid, I'd rather be friends with this thing than E.T.
Senior Sticks, what if Patrick Stewart played the ex-lover and boss? Then it would feel like Safe House.
Oh, well, then he'd get to be an action hero.
That's
He'd
true.
rip off that stupid sweater and he'd have the John McClane wife beater on underneath, like he does in is it the third TNG movie? I think so.
You go to you go to the shot where he's got the gun, and if it's Patrick Stewart from Safe House, you mother effer, you're killing all my ex-girlfriends.
You mother fly! You're killing all my lilies. Because the woman would be named Lily in this.
Oh, okay. You're killing all my lilies.
You're killing all my lily.
The choice to have him merge with the machine is genius. Like, I would have never thought of it. This is the stuff that makes it feel like Terminator 2 to me.
Well, and
The flashing, the sparks, where the camera's placed.
well, and the fact that it looks as good as it does when it's both flesh and machine is amazing.
It's amazing. It's so grotesque. I would buy an action figure of that if it was detailed right. Like,
Yeah. No, I guess because you mentioned the metal in the head, but my favorite is the way that he like has a torso, and as he goes, it just becomes one long tube, like he's like a mermaid. That
Noah
and the
says
scream
this
when he
music.
comes out is awesome.
I've got to listen to the soundtrack independently.
Yeah.
It
No, I
just
want to put this
it
in my.
sounds like a. Sorry, what is it? What is it?
No, I have like a horror score playlist that I listen to it if I'm reading a horror book. I want to put this in it. I need to add that. But I think she really sells that, like she doesn't want to do it even still.
Yeah.
Oh, you know what it is for the
No,
sadness?
no, she's
His eyes are
incredible,
way
man.
bigger now.
Yes. And hers are smaller now.
Yeah, that's because she's going like this because she's crying.
Now, you noticed earlier, no matter how grotesque he got and whatever grossness might get on her, she always hugged him. But she doesn't
Yeah.
do that here.
No, she's like Princess Diana hugging someone with AIDS.
Honestly, I didn't think she was going to shoot him.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I really thought Stasis was going to come back and grab the gun and finish
I'm
it
glad
off.
that didn't happen.
Yeah, me too.
And that head pop is so good. Just everything about this moment is
And
so
then-
perfect.
Yeah, and then her response, like, how much better is this than, if she, like, came to suddenly hate him now because he's not, like, what he was before, and she sees him as just the monster, and she's got some kind of one-liner, is like, you're terminated, effer, or whatever. That works
Yeah.
great in that movie, don't get me wrong, but... And then it's done! That's it! That's all you get! Read a book! Like, wow!
You flew for the last time, fly.
They got me so hard with that ending. Where like I'm looking at him. He's got the whole like man, monster, and machine thing. Where like he he's played God. He's gone too far with the technology. He then has to like become part of the technology, and then she kills him, and it's just done. It's like you're left with that image.
Yeah, it's such a beautiful final shot where like she like drops to her knees, crying next to his dead body. Absolutely. Also, Noah, you are correct. This is a way more emotional ending than E.T. Than anything in E.T.
Uh, I think I'm also desperate lately for this is just really refreshing for a piece that's this, like I said earlier, simple and textbook short story writing. Like
Yeah.
it feels really epic, but at the same time, it doesn't feel like a novel. It feels like a short story. It's based on a short story. It is a short story. It's only an hour 35
yeah.
minutes. It
Well,
doesn't
like we
go.
said, like we have like two major locations, three major characters.
Yeah.
Like obviously there's like people outside of that and like a few locations outside of that, but like that's what really matters. Most of the movie takes place in one lab.
I've never felt the need to praise like specifically the musicians that make the music, but good job, London Philharmonic. Yeah, like
Yeah. Everybody give him a hand.
make fun of me if you want to, but it's just
No,
it
the
sounds
music's
so
really
good.
good. That's genuine. The music's very good.
I think part of the reason I'm so over the moon by this is I never cared about this premise.
Yeah. No, I'm glad it won you over, and like as strongly as it did. Because I watched this movie for the first time in like 2018, and I've seen it probably. I think it's like my sixth time watching it now. Like it's really good, and it's a movie I go back to quite a bit and show a lot of people.
I will too. Yeah, I'm gonna show this to my wife. I'm gonna be a little sad if she doesn't like it, but because she doesn't tend to go for stuff like this. But it's
Yeah.
I can't say character piece exactly, but like those people are drawn. I care about them. Like,
Yeah, I mean, it's a character piece in the sense that we're like watching this character slowly devolve over time.
Robert Wilde, I really want to see Man Bat in a live action Batman movie. Looking at this for inspiration, yeah, absolutely. And obviously, there's tons of supervillains that have this kind of thing where it's like a merger of man and animal. I tend to think of that as a Jekyll Hyde metaphor, or doing the same thing that the Jekyll Hyde metaphor is doing, and very often it is because it'll kind of bring out the like dark side of them that maybe was already there. This isn't really doing that, right? It's not like the insect is a part of Goldblum that was all or Brundle that was always there. Like it's much more about man messing with nature, and all of that.
Yeah, no, it would be like if Hammond turned himself into a T-Rex.
That's exactly right.
Yeah, like it's that same kind of story of somebody messing with science and whatnot, or if like Dr. Frankenstein turned himself into Frankenstein, or the monster. If you
But
want to
way
get
more subtle about it than Jurassic Park in both the movie and the book, which lay it on real thick.
Yeah.
I mean, what I like about this is I kind of talked about this earlier, but that's the big kind of classic sci-fi theme that I'm taking out of this, and that's not even what Cronenberg thinks the movie's about. Like,
Well, I just think I'm watching a movie about AIDS. And
well,
he
anyway,
doesn't think that either.
everybody, thanks a lot for watching this with us. My goodness, did I have a good time with this? And that's like a, I don't know, change my outlook a little bit kind of movie where like I needed this in my I don't know, history Rolodex.
You just needed to be merged with this movie.
That's right, but that would be really grotesque because there'd be like a Blu-ray sticking out of my head and.
Sarah's like, "What's this on your back?" And it's just like a picture of like a screenshot of Jeff Goldblum from the movie.
Yeah, and like I'm trying to eat and I start throwing up, but it's just the inserts that pop out of DVD boxes when you open them. It's like it's just advertisements for like
One
McDonald's
cheesy
and
burger.
a cheesy burger.
Your teeth fall out and are replaced with like shards of DVD.
Yeah, it's like I'm trying to eat, and then my family's just like, I don't want to see the Fly stage show. Like,
Absolutely. That'd be perfect. You go and write that novel, Cap.
I challenged someone. I wanted to say this earlier. I challenged someone to try to make a video game out of this movie.
I mean, give it time. We're in like peak make 80s horror properties into games. So
Don't you think that'd be really funny though? Like, what would it be? Because I don't want it to just be the Fly. I mean, like you said, 2 locations. What would it even be? Unless you like turn into the Fly and then you just go terrorize neighborhoods or something.
well, that's what it would be. Is it would be all online. One person would be the Fly, and then the other 2 people would be her and Stathis. And like one of them has to show up with a shotgun. Like,
But what I want it to be is this customizable thing where you bring you like it's an RPG kind of thing, and you make your own character, and then
you can upgrade your Fly abilities.
No. You can bring anything in an open world to the teleporter and merge with it. So it's not just the Fly. You can become a Brundle anything.
You can become the baboon.
Yeah, exactly. You can be a Brundleboon.
Eventually, you're just like a horrible monstrosity of every single thing in the open world.
Yeah, exactly. And you keep creating them, and then every time you make one, you can either keep going with that character, you can start over and make another one, and you can interact with all the other ones that you made.
You know what I want is
This started
exact
off as a silly idea. Now I want it.
No, I want this exact idea, but with the gameplay of like Goat Simulator, where you walk around, but instead of the tongue, it's his hand, and you can like grab things and drag them into the pod.
Yeah, you have a whole sandbox for it, and then one of the options you have is to make a petting zoo. You put all your grotesque monstrosities in a petting zoo.
Yeah.
In a menagerie.
No, this is perfect. Go and make this.
Yeah,
Disney.
the Fly the game. But it doesn't have to be a fly.
No, that's the tagline, the Fly the game, but it doesn't have to be the Fly.
Yeah, it's the first mature version of something like Scribblenauts.
Yeah.
Anyway, everybody, thanks a lot for watching and watching the movie, listening to this with us. I hope you watched the movie along with us. And I know some of you guys did. Maybe you know the movie really well. But if this was your... If you watch the movie for the first time, especially, let me know in the comments what you thought of it, and if I'm right that this is as wonderful as I think it is. And thanks a lot for watching. We will be back. I'll be back again on Monday with the next part of my rundown of my superhero movie collection, and. What else are we doing next week? Oh, the 24-hour stream is next Friday into Saturday. Austin's going to do the first leg of that with me, and I'm going to have some other magnanimous folks that you know popping in with me. I'll probably be doing part of that myself as well. We're going to be watching episodes from shows of the DCAU, and sometime next week, Austin and I might be reviewing Halloween Kills. And not Kills, we already did that, sort of. Halloween Ends.
Titles, man.
And also go back and take a look at Army of Darkness if you're so inclined for Wednesday, because we're going to be talking about that day as well. So lots more Halloween stuff this month, except for the DCAU, which is not, but might have some sort of Halloween-y things in it. Anyway, thanks again for watching. Austin, do you have any final words of wisdom?
No.
Oh, sorry. There's one thing I meant to mention that I found out about this movie that we didn't bring up, which is Mel Brooks was the main producer of this.
I saw that. That's nuts.
And he didn't put his name on it because he didn't want people to think it was a Mel Brooks film. So he was cool enough to bankroll it and then not take any credit for it at all.
No, Mel Brooks is a cool guy.
Isn't that neat?
Yeah. Although I do want the Mel Brooks The Fly movie where he gets introduced to the parents.
Robert Wilde said, "Be afraid, be very afraid." I was shocked when that came up because I never knew where that came from either. Like that was another thing where I was like, "Oh, the world makes more sense to me now."
I didn't understand life, and then I saw The Fly. It makes a little bit more sense, but not really.
Anyway, we'll see you later, folks. Bye, everybody.